days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. 49ers versus Browns upon further review. This is when I get into my coaching points of what I saw in the All-22 film. And it's always a fun look because what you see on the TV copy and what you see sometimes in the All-22 can change a little bit, depending on the angle or even some of the things you see downfield or with route design. And a lot of things are evident, right? This is the thing that they do every single week. They watch film. They tell the truth Monday. We're going to look at the film, and we're just going to tell the truth. It's black and white. This is what you see is what you get. There's no excuses. You got to do this. You got to do that. Look at the technique here. We got to fix this. And there's so many things that come out of it. But there's also a lot of good things that come out of it, too. It's not all negative and things you're doing wrong, but there's also, hey, look at this play. Everybody try to have this effort or try to put, this consistency together that you're getting from player A. That is one of the things I love about film and about film watching. And of course, if you want to watch the film, you can go over to my Patreon page. Link is in the description section. And I've already posted the first half offensive film breakdown, 49ers versus Cleveland Browns. That's available. And then I'm going to stagger. The other ones are going to be coming out this week as well. Defensive first half, offense and defense second half. Those are going to be coming as well. Sorry, guys, struggling with that part. But all that's going to be coming your way. So if you're into film breakdowns, you like standalone shows, there's a brand new episode of the Ant Hill Show over there where Jay Hill had to eat crow about his prediction for 49ers versus Cleveland Browns. That's available as well over on Patreon. But enough about Patreon. This is going to be a fun one because I just want to talk about what I see on film and some of the trends that I see coming from the 49ers coaching staff about how they're preparing this football team and what this football team is doing. You always want to be playing your best football when you get to December, January, and of course February if you have the opportunity to get to February. That's where you want to be kind of hitting and firing on all cylinders. And it's tough to say the 49ers are going to be firing on all cylinders when they don't have a lot of their horsepower, right? Their car is kind of missing some of those pieces. Fred Warner, you're missing Nick Bosa. You're missing some of these guys. But the 49ers have found a way to have an opportunity, and to use a car term, they're like a sleeper. They got one heck of a motor, and then you look on the outside and you're like, but that car shouldn't be fast. And then it races you and it absolutely smokes you. That's kind of where the 49ers are. But to get there, they kind of had to calibrate everything. They had to get everything in the right order, everything firing on the right wavelength. And that's what they're doing now. They're getting things together. It's a good plan from Robert Saleh. It's great execution at times from his players. It's a good plan from Kyle Shanahan. It's great from Brant Boyer, right? So there's a lot of things that are going into it. So we're going to get into some of the things I saw coaching-wise, what the 49ers are doing that's helping this football team. I want to get into some of the players and the performances. Did what they did hold water, right? A lot of the rankings and things like that you see come out are always interesting because they start talking about, oh, this guy was terrible, that guy was terrible, and then you look at it and you're like, wait, he wasn't terrible. Maybe it wasn't the performance that everyone was hoping for, but he did not grade out that bad. He played pretty well when you look at the overall film, and I think that's something to always remember is PFF grades and things are going to come out, but it's not going to tell the full tell the full story or paint a full picture of what things are happening in the game. So that's what we're going to do in this one. I got all my notes ready. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode brought to you by FanDuel, the title sponsor of 49ers Cutback. So when I went upon further review, the first thing I noticed was some of the definite details to what Cleveland was doing. And I'll start for the 49ers on offense. And I want to talk a lot about the 49ers defense, but coming out in that game, I think the big conversation was the 49ers offense versus the Cleveland Browns number 2 defense in the NFL, Myles Garrett, that pass rush that had just sacked Geno Smith 10 times. What were they going to do to the 49ers, and how are the 49ers going to respond? And of course, if you were on the channel last week, I said I looked for Jim Schwartz to try to limit the effectiveness of George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey and kind of put the onus on the 49ers wide receivers to win. And they came out with that exact game plan. So they lined up a safety pretty much the entire game right over the top of George Kittle. They came up and they were going to make it difficult for him to get a release early in the game. They were going to make it difficult for the 49ers when they were in their 21 personnel, which we've talked about the effect 21 personnel has on defenses. It puts them in the base set. But for the Cleveland Browns, Coach Jim Schwartz was like, we're going to make Brock Purdy beat us. We're going to make the 49ers passing game beat us, and we think that our front four and our pass rush can get home every single time against your offensive line. That was kind of the blueprint for what they were doing. Kittle, McCaffrey, you're not going to beat us. McCaffrey's not going to beat us in the run game. We're going to limit your effectiveness. So what do you get from Kyle Shanahan play one? Well, you get an 8-man box from the defense. They come up, they load up. In fact, they had 9 guys in the box for play one. And he runs a levels concept where he's going to get Brock Purdy to get a half roll, and he's going to hit Kyle Juszczyk on a corner route or a 7 route. And they're running a levels concept, so he's running a corner route. Ricky Pearsall's running across the formation, and he's going to be in the intermediate, and then you've got Jawan Jennings underneath. That levels concept gets Kyle Juszczyk wide open on the 7 route. And why is he wide open? Well, they're playing a single high safety. They're not playing 2 high safety look. They had all those guys in the box. But when you run the play action at Christian McCaffrey, and the 49ers are averaging, 98 yards per game right now on the ground. But their willingness to run the ball, everyone's thought process on Christian McCaffrey being able to run the ball consistently, still engaged all those guys. And you get the big explosive play down the field to Kyle Juszczyk, a 20-plus yard play on first down. That was a simple look for the 49ers. We get this look. Okay, we're going to hit Kyle Juszczyk. And I love the thought process because the 21 personnel does put the defense in a disadvantage when it comes to covering a player like Kyle Juszczyk and covering a play like George Kittle. So just fast forward one play. The 49ers know the look that they got now. And I know Kyle Shanahan scripts it, so this is the script. He comes out and he runs another play that's a levels concept. This time it's George Kittle running the corner route, and he's trying to get Brock Purdy out on the edge. Now, because of the way Isaiah McGuire, the defensive end, plays this, Brock Purdy had a decision to make early, and when he doesn't make the decision early, it kind of messes up the timing of the play, and McGuire kind of screws things up. So they're going to do the same thing. Jennings is going to have the underneath. They have somebody in the middle. I can't remember exactly who it was in the intermediate in the flood concept against the cover 3, but then he had George Kittle on the 7 route. If Brock Purdy sees George Kittle early, he can flip it over the top. And I'm telling you, he could throw a rainbow to George Kittle, and George Kittle's going to have another 20-plus yard gain. Unfortunately, he doesn't see him early, and he has to continue to the sideline, and eventually he just throws the ball away. And the 49ers don't get another big play. But what it illustrated was their preparedness for what they were going to see from the defense of the Cleveland Browns. And ultimately, that drive ends up sputtering out around midfield. 49ers face a 3rd and long, and they're not able to, convert. And what you saw, though, was what Schwartz was doing. Kyle Shanahan really got kind of in his sights. And by the time you got to the second half, 49ers were able to run the ball better. They were able to execute in the passing game better. They used 11 personnel as changeups to kind of spread them out and then run the ball, but they could still run in their 21 personnel. But it was a philosophy of, even if you have 8 guys in the box, we're still going to run. We're still going to take advantage of the things that you give us. And I thought that was good. And it was all about not making mistakes. 49ers were not going to allow negative plays. And as a coach, that's one of the big things you can do. And because hey, my team is better than that team as long as we don't help that team out. And that was one of the coaching philosophies that I had when I coached was, as long as we don't make mistakes, we're going to be fine. We can't have negative plays. If we get backed up and we're facing 3rd and long, it's going to be a tough day. But if we're facing 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, because we didn't have negative plays, we're probably going to be in a good situation, right? We're staying ahead of the sticks. That's exactly what they do. Now, that is not just an offensive philosophy, but that was a defensive philosophy too. They weren't going to allow big shots down the field. They weren't going to allow the deep ball, right? That's one of the things we talked about. Don't let Shedeur Sanders get that deep ball. Now, he got the one to Harold Fannin Jr. You tip your cap. They beat you on that one, and you move on. But when you look at Robert Saleh's philosophy, they were going to let the Cleveland Browns, for the most part, move the ball down the field methodically on the ground. The thought was they can't string together drives that are going to be able to run the ball all the way down the field, that Shedeur Sanders isn't going to make some sort of mistake when it's his time to pass, and that they're going to be able to consistently score. And that's not a new thought process for Robert Saleh. That's basically what he's been doing for the last 3 weeks, right? Arizona, they gave up a ton of passing yards, but once again held them when it came to scoring for the most part until the end of the game, right? Arizona kind of got a late touchdown, things like that. That inflated some of the numbers. But he was like, yeah, we'll give you that, but we're going to take away this. And then against the Carolina Panthers, it was like, oh, yeah, we're going to not let you run the ball at all. And then we're going to make it tough for you on third down. We don't think Bryce Young can do that well enough. Well, against Cleveland, he wasn't willing to give up anything big. He wasn't willing to let them have any of those shot plays, to take any of the opportunities. And what we're seeing is this defense is kind of taking away what teams are doing well, right? Ted McMillan, Xavier Legette, you've been explosive. Not against us. We're not going to let that happen, right? That's Robert Saleh talking, not me. I'm not saying us. That's Robert Saleh. Not against us. We're not going to let you guys beat us. Rico Dowdle, you've been going? No, not against us. They've been taking away certain things. And I love that philosophy from him. But what we're seeing is a certain pattern, not just in the way that Kyle Shanahan, Robert Saleh, and Brant Boyer are coordinating their football team, or their units, but we're seeing some things from the players too. And I want to talk about that in 1 second. But if you are going to bet with FanDuel. Right now, the Thursday night matchup, 49ers are not playing, but they are watching because the Dallas Cowboys and Detroit Lions has playoff implications. The Detroit Lions are hanging on by a thread right now. They're not out of it in the division for the NFC North. They're not out of it for the wild card. But if they lose to Dallas, it would put them in a world of hurt. They would be struggling. So the Dallas Cowboys are coming into Detroit. They are a 3-point underdog in Detroit. Right now, the money line plus 130 for Dallas. Over under is 54.5 for this game. So if you're going to bet, they got lots of cool player props. It's going to be a big game. Everyone should go watch. And if you're going to bet with FanDuel. But this philosophy is highlighting a couple of things. It's highlighting the opportunity for young players to step up, but the opportunity that the young players are seizing because they're getting better. If there's been one thing that I've noticed on film over the last 3 to 5 weeks, it has been the steady incline of play from certain players. You're seeing guys get better. I talked about Upton Stout a little bit in the video I did earlier this week about stock up 49ers. Upton Stout, if you look at his PFF grade, it's not going to wow you, right? I mean, this guy is not somebody that was high graded. In fact, he's one of those guys that can't consistently get on the high PFF grades. But to me, he played so good. He made tackles. He got in there. He did what he was supposed to do. He didn't give up any big plays. And the 49ers have found a formula. This is what it's been about, finding a formula that works. Jason Pennick and Upton Stout kind of working together. You have Pennick playing in some of the early downs, playing the run, playing against the bigger tight ends, those type of guys. You got Upton Stout coming in when it's pure nickel situations, and he's coming in. He's playing well against the run, but he's better in coverage now than he's probably ever been. And so you're seeing some consistency coming from young players, and that's what it's about. It's about the consistency. And on that defense, that's what you're finding is a lot of consistency, especially with some of the young guys. And Malik Mustafa is one that I really want to highlight. I didn't talk about him that much in my Stock Up 49ers. But the reason I want to highlight what Malik Mustafa is capable of doing is because Robert Saleh has been able to kind of keep the 49ers in some too high safety looks. And when you're in a too high safety look, normally offenses want to run the ball down your throat. You've got a light box. We can take advantage of it. We can run. what Malik Mustafa does and how he comes downhill so fast, he kind of can erase some of those plays. He can still stay a two-high safety look and still come downhill and help in the run game. And the 49ers definitely missed that. Now, Marquis Siegel was great. I like Marquis Siegel a lot. I think that he's going to be a great safety for the 49ers eventually. I do. I think he's just such a great tackler. But he was struggling when it came to the coverage aspect, being in the right spot. Malik Mustafa will be in the right spot. He'll be where he's supposed to be. And I love that about a back-end player. And since Malik Mustafa's kind of gotten reacclimated to this defense, make no mistake, it's improved Jair Brown's play as well. Over the last 3 weeks, Jair Brown's probably had the best stretch he's ever had in his career. And that is probably when Malik Mustafa was or just about getting his feet underneath him. So what you're seeing is these guys play well together, number one. But number two, the things that Malik Mustafa can do can kind of balance out Jair Brown. And so now you're finally getting some cohesiveness with that secondary and that safety room. So Malik Mustafa being able to come up like that, make plays, when he's more under control, his tackling gets better. That's huge as well. But we're seeing consistency from the back end. And that's going to balance things out. Because before, the corners were kind of carrying everything. And that's why it was making it a little bit more difficult on guys like Upton Stout. Now, he's been learning a lot. Teams have thrown everything at him this year. They know that he was a point of emphasis to attack. Well, what Robert Saleh has done is find a unit now that he feels comfortable with. Coach Daniel Bullocks has done a really good job coaching them up. And the 49ers are finding consistency with those young players. And it goes even to the defensive line. I feel like the defensive line has gotten better and better. Those young guys, CJ West, Alfred Collins, they've been holding things down in the interior part of that defensive line while guys have been able to get healthy. And these guys are kind of eating some bad PFF grades. If you look, Alfred Collins had a 38.5 PFF grade. CJ West had a 35.3 PFF grade. And part of the reason those guys are eating some bad PFF grades, if you want to get some context to it, is those guys aren't great pass rushers. But that's not what they were drafted for. They weren't drafted to get in there and pass rush, but because of injuries to guys like Yetur Gross-Matos and to Sam Okuwanu, they're having to get more interior pass rush snaps. And the 49ers are going with a constant rotation between Jordan Elliott, Clea Davis, Alfred Collins, and CJ West. And then they're playing unselfish football. And that's one of the key factors for this defense and this defensive line is unselfish football. When they're playing stunts, Alfred Collins and CJ West are trying to open things up for guys like Cleveland Farrell and for Bryce Huff and for Keon White. These guys are all playing for each other. And that complementary defensive line play has been huge. And make no mistake, Alfred Collins and CJ West are a big reason why. And so you can look at these numbers, and of course, they gave up a lot of yards on the ground and all that stuff. And the 49ers were prepared for that. They were willing to stay two-high safety, and they were willing to let the Cleveland Browns run the ball some. And they knew that consistently, the Cleveland Browns defense or offense wasn't going to be able to win the day. And so some of it comes to that philosophy. But I just find it, kind of exciting that these young guys are getting better and better. And, George Kittle talked about Alfred Collins a lot. And that's part of the reason is these guys are going out there and they're playing unselfish football. They're doing the dirty work, the grunt work that doesn't show up on the stat sheet, the things that people, don't notice. And that's what you have to have with young players that are stepping in. I mean, that's really what Robert Saleh is doing with his defense. He is masking weaknesses and highlighting strengths. And that's all you can ask, right? Diamond Lenore continues to play well. Renardo Green had a mistake in this game. Him and Gifford, Gifford could have sagged a little bit more, probably. It's more so on Renardo Green than Luke Gifford. But you're going to make mistakes. It's how do you respond to those? And I felt like Renardo Green, for the most part, played pretty well. I mean, Jerry Jeudy wasn't effective in this game. Cedric Tillman wasn't effective in this game. The 49ers really slowed down the Cleveland Browns offense through the air. And it wasn't a prolific offense, right? I'm not gonna blow smoke up anyone's behind and saying, hey, stopping this Cleveland Browns offense was something spectacular. But what we've seen the 49ers do is just find a way. And that coaching philosophy is also trending on special teams. If there was one thing we knew about the 49ers special teams since 2017, it felt like no one ever got better. Like the unit was the unit. They went out there and they played, and sometimes they were successful, sometimes they weren't, and they were usually going to be in the bottom third of the NFL. But you never saw players all of a sudden go from not quite there to wow, he's explosive, he's dominant, he's making plays, he's making tackles. But when you watch this unit, you see guys that are getting more comfortable and getting better. You see the way that they block things change. You see adjustments to what teams do. And that is one of the big things with coaching is adjustments. And I feel like Brant Boyer has consistently adjusted. Whether that was deciding to remove Isaac Guerrero from the kick return job and put Brian Robinson out there with Sky Moore, that's been huge. Not only has it been good when they want to kick it away from Sky Moore, but also since that happened, Sky Moore has been a better return guy. But that's what I'm talking about. Sky Moore improved. You look at the special teams when it comes to returns in general. 49ers one of the best in the NFL now. You look at the 49ers kick coverage. It's improved. Field position gets better and better. You know, they're making offenses go further and further between what happens with the kickoff to the tackling. Guys like Luke Farrell, Luke Gifford, those guys have been phenomenal. Nick Martin, when he was in there, he was making some plays. They are consistently getting better and better. Terrell Luter Jr. used to be an absolute liability on special teams. And now he had a play where he recovered a fumble. And I know he didn't do anything besides recover a muff fumble, but we're also not talking about negative plays from him either. They are coming through with consistency. And that is one of the keys. And that's what you have to have is if you want to be a good football team and you want to be able to go deep into January, you've got to limit mistakes. You got to highlight strengths. You got to limit weaknesses and mask those weaknesses. And the 49ers have been doing that a lot. The fact that they held two NFL teams to under 10 points in the last 2 weeks with a third string middle linebacker, right? A backup Sam linebacker. You had defensive line, you're deep in the bag. Cleveland Farrell got cut from a practice squad, and he's coming in. He's had 4 sacks in 4 weeks. Keon White wasn't even playing for New England. He was a healthy scratch. He's got a sack and a half. You're getting play from guys that you shouldn't probably expect that play from, but they're getting coached. And the coaches are taking advantage of their skill set the best way they can. I love it. And, I talked about the defense. I talked about the special teams. And I want to give Kyle Shanahan a little bit more credit than what I did with, early on when I was talking about him, is you could tell the messaging of this game was, let's go in there. Let's do what we can. Let's win the categories that we need to win. It's going to be tough sledding in the run game. We're just going to keep doing it. We're going to keep taking what's there. And we're going to, in the end, we're going to be able to get enough done to win. The reason I say that is just watch the way that Brock Purdy approached this game from the very beginning. Did he still make some Brock Purdy throws, some tight throws to contested players? Absolutely. But he also made some really good decisions. If he takes a sack, there's one play at the end of the first half, for instance. If he takes a sack on the play, that's the end of the half. More than likely, Kyle Shanahan lets the time run out. You don't want to give Cleveland another shot. You're going to the half down 8-7. Instead, Brock Purdy made a really good decision, got rid of the football. They lived to fight another day. His willingness to take care of the ball in that game was huge. But it also comes down to a coach understanding what his players can do and what a defense is going to do. I'll give you a perfect example. The San Francisco 49ers wanted to score a touchdown on that drive where Sky Moore had the big punt return. And on third down, they spread them out. They go 11 personnel from the 2-yard line. That's not normally a 49ers MO. Kyle Shanahan calls an inside give to Christian McCaffrey. At least that's what it looks like, right? Inside give to Christian McCaffrey. Jake Brendel makes a great block. Spencer Burford makes a great block. They're double teaming with Dominic Pooney and Trent Williams. They do a great job. Boom. Christian McCaffrey gets enough to score a touchdown. And at first look, you're just like, hey, great look. What you don't see is that play is also the same exact setup you're going to get from Brock Purdy's rushing touchdown. It's a read option. And, so many times we talk about Kyle Shanahan not willing to run his quarterbacks, right? He doesn't want to get them hurt. Should you run some more design run plays with Brock Purdy? And Myles Garrett stays out on Brock. And so he gives it McCaffrey touchdown. Kyle Shanahan remembers that. And he comes back to it again. And this time, they absolutely bite on it. And Brock Purdy pulls it and runs for a touchdown. So he literally set up the Brock Purdy touchdown with the first touchdown of the game to Christian McCaffrey. It's just willingness to know who you're playing. Let's take advantage of the aggressiveness of Myles Garrett. And it didn't all work, right? They tried screen pass to Kyle Juszczyk, didn't quite get there. They tried to screen pass to Christian McCaffrey, didn't quite work. They tried the shovel pass, didn't quite work. All things they did in 2023 as well. If you go back and you watch 49ers versus Cleveland Browns 2023, you'll find those. You'll even find the jet sweep to Demarcus Robinson, right? They ran it to Ray McCloud. The same things that worked against that defense, Kyle Shanahan tried to sprinkle in. Now, they weren't as effective this time, but he had other things that he could do as well. So I really liked it. I want to say this about the offensive line. I thought they competed. I thought they played pretty well in this game. I don't think that the PFF grades are going to show that. Spencer Burford had a 51.1 grade. I thought Spencer Burford played pretty well considering. Was there errors and mistakes? Absolutely. Colt McKivitz may have had one of the most frustrating first half game tapes I've seen from him in a long time. And not so much in pass protection, even though Myles Garrett did beat him to the inside and to the outside. That's a tough matchup for anyone, but Colt McKivitz especially. But the first run of the game is a toss play to Christian McCaffrey, and Colt McKivitz just gets in his way. It's literally gets in his way. If McKivitz goes outside, McCaffrey busts inside, and he's going to have at least 7-8 yards, maybe even more. If he breaks a tackle, it's a touchdown. If McKivitz goes inside, McCaffrey can go outside. Same sort of thing, 7-8 yards, maybe a touchdown, depending on if he can make the last guy miss. Instead, he gets right in the way. It doesn't make a decision. And Christian McCaffrey's only able to get 2. And you can see Christian McCaffrey's open frustration. That's not the only time that Colt McKivitz cost the 49ers some yards. Probably like a half a quarter later. And Dominic Pooney does a great job with a help block. Gets Mason Graham under control for Colt McKivitz. And instead of McKivitz leaning into it, getting in front of him like he should have because he had full control, he had his face already across the shoulder, it was easy. He just goes with the arm extended and he wants to run with them. And Mason Graham ends up disengaging and tackling Christian McCaffrey for a gain of 4 on a play that McCaffrey, I'm not kidding you, would have been on the safety one-on-one probably 10 to 12 yards down the field. It was an explosive run waiting to happen, maybe even a touchdown run. And he just didn't execute. So it was a frustrating game, especially the first half, watching Colt McKivitz. It wasn't as bad as the second half, but the first half was definitely frustrating. But this is going to be one of the things the 49ers deal with. Now, that was a very good defensive line from the Cleveland Browns. So we'll give them that. But yeah, definitely Colt McKivitz is one of those ones that I wrote down, was like, okay, some of these plays. We talked about the 49ers safeties. I do want to mention that D. Winters had a really good game. He was flying around. He was making plays, making tackles in a game that, you had Curtis Robinson playing Mike linebacker again. It felt like D. Winters really took charge. And I think that some of this stuff, with Robert Saleh, he continues to put those guys in really good positions to be successful. But, D. Winters was flying around. He was making tackles. I thought he was good in this game, so I want to talk about him. George Kittle was great in this game. The route running was fantastic, even with the focus being on stopping him. He did a really good job. Ricky Pearsall ran a couple of really good routes. Jawan Jennings ran some really good routes in this game. I thought that they looked good, even though there wasn't a lot of production in the passing game. I know Jawan did have some, but The route running was good. The timing with Brock Purdy was good. The understanding of what the defense was trying to do was really good. So it was definitely a well thought out, well put together plan on offense, defense, and special teams, and they did exactly what they planned on doing. They mitigated mistakes. They took advantage of what was there. They're willing to play field position. They were willing to put the onus on the Cleveland Browns to be the aggressor on both offense and defense, and the Cleveland Browns weren't able to do enough. And that's one of the things that I love. And one more play I want to highlight, because it's Christian McCaffrey catching the ball and get it down to the 2-yard line. They literally blitz 6 guys. 49ers don't have enough guys to pick it all up. Only 5 guys in. McCaffrey releases up the field. George Kittle draws double coverage, and McCaffrey's wide open over the middle. And Brock Purdy, as soon as he saw the linebacker blitz, boom, just got it right over the top. It was great recognition from Brock. I think Brock Purdy was superb in this game. And do I think it's like his greatest performance? No. But understanding what he was seeing and what he was doing, he was pretty good. In the first half, there's only one play that I saw that Brock Purdy probably should have checked out of because of alignment of the Cleveland Browns in the run game. And, probably should have canned that, or even changed the side that the play was going to go. But other than that, I thought that he had a real control of what was going on, under center. And I thought he did a real good job pre-snap. So it was good. So upon further review, I'll say this. The 49ers handled business. They came in and did exactly what they planned on doing against the Cleveland Browns. They mitigated mistakes. They masked weaknesses. They highlighted strengths. And they won on third down. They won in the red zone. They won the turnover battle. They won the time of possession. And when you do that, you're going to win a lot of football games. 49ers are playing some of the best football that they've played right now. It's not explosive football. It's good football. And that's what you have to do if you want to win this time of year. And so it's a good one for them to learn from. So thanks for watching, everyone. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network. Please give it a 5-star rating. This episode brought to you by FanDuel. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.